Imagine being in a house that has no lights or windows and that you are exploring it with a small flashlight. You would only be conscious of the part of the house that came within the beam of your light. Our consciousness is like that beam. Most people are conscious of only a very small part of their total being. They are like people living in a mansion, but thinking that the house only consists of a small apartment below ground level. They might not like the apartment much. It might be dark and damp and full of spiders, roaches, and other little beasts. They attempt to clean up the apartment, but no improvement seems to last very long. The spiders and roaches keep coming back no matter how many they kill. They end up living, as Thoreau said, lives of quiet desperation. The attempts to remodel the apartment have very little results, and the deepest problems are beyond any attempts to solve them. In spiritual growth, we get to look at the quality of this basement apartment and observe it for what it is. This involves telling us the truth about the kind of thoughts and feelings that occupy much of our conscious life. If that little apartment was the only place we had to deal with, this could be extremely depressing. Spiritual growth begins by discovering that we actually have higher levels in ourselves. Our mansion includes much more than this dank little room. When we learn how to access higher levels of the mansion, we find that they are of a very different quality. They are light and cheerful. They have windows so you can see out and enjoy the beautiful world outside. These higher levels are free of all those little beasts that make such a noise and smell in the basement. For the most part, negative or self-harming, useless emotions For the most part, the emotions that we consider to be negative, although that might not be a good way to describe them, such as fear and anger, but also jealousy and self-pity and shame, are in the lowest levels of the house. For the most part, the beasts that are in the basement are emotions such as fear and jealousy, self-pity, and shame. They are human emotions, and we have them, but they only exist in the basement. And when one of these emotions is active, it is as if the whole life of the person is in the basement. The reality is that the higher levels of the mind are still calm and peaceful. So how do we access the higher levels of this house? We cannot raise ourselves by our own bootstraps. The basement cannot rise and become the first or second floor. Instead, we use techniques to shift our sense of who we are to a different level of our life. Take, for example, a person in the grip of fear. When a person is overwhelmed by fear, his or her life seems to be nothing but fear. At other moments, the fear is gone, and they can hardly remember it. They normally think that they are one person having certain qualities and characteristics. A person might say, well, I am a worrier. My mother was a worrier. My father was a worrier. It's in my family, and I guess I will always be a worrier. I can't do much about it. The error in this thinking is that we are just one person with certain distinct qualities, when in fact we are very many different people with many different qualities. One of the personalities might be lazy and uncaring. Another might be committed and deeply interested in other people. One part of us is quietly reflective, and yet another is active and boisterous. Parts of us might be mean or deceitful or self-serving. Other parts are generous, truthful, and interested in being useful to others. Rather than reject ourselves for being mean or take glory in our generosity, we can simply observe that nasty part or that arrogant part and simultaneously get in touch with the parts that are healthier, more positive, more open, more receptive of love and light. The house consists of many levels. The basement level is full of these beasts, meaning our negative emotions, or those emotions that draw our energy away or down. The stairs in the house give us access to higher levels, though we do not so much ascend the stairs as we shift our sense of who we are from the basement to some other level. You will notice also that you cannot look out the basement windows, which suggests that while people identify with this lower part of themselves, they cannot really see other people and the world. They are too wrapped up in themselves. This diagram shows a heart in the attic to represent that at the highest level of our being, we are perfect vessels of the pure love of God. That is where the divine life flows into us most directly and is received in the best way. We may use a meditation that says, I know that I am a spiritual being created in the image and likeness of God. On the deepest level, I am at peace and in harmony with the universe. I am a beloved child of God, a vessel receiving life, though God works through me as his instrument. I find my greatest fulfillment when God's love passes through me to others who are also the children of God, who are also created in the image and likeness of God. So you are the only one who can access your own higher levels. You alone live in your inner world. This is why we ask you to test everything that you hear from me in this book against your actual experience, what is going on in your heart and mind. In the end, we don't learn, we aren't transformed by a book, but we learn from and are transformed by our own life experience. Some people keep a journal, and the purpose of a journal is to help identify and so hold on to these experiences of transformation. It seems to help them be aware of exactly when they do a spiritual task and what happens as a result. So the recommendation is to keep a journal about your spiritual life as a way of, as it were, staying awake. The mind is the inner world of thoughts and feelings, imagination, desire, reason, intuition, and so on. These include a vast range from the sublime to the ridiculous. We call some feelings negative, emotions such as self-pity, contempt, smugness, impatience, fear, anger, many others. Other emotions we consider more positive, such as compassion, joy, happiness, tenderness, and fun. There are some emotions that run so deep as to lie almost beyond consciousness, feelings of deep inner peace and contentment and trust and bliss. It's important to notice that all emotions are human emotions, all emotions are real, and they're welcome, and the goal of spiritual growth is to choose joy. And in order to choose joy, we need to observe all these emotions. So we are looking at this as if there are different levels of emotions and thoughts. And some are going to be very external and crude and negative. These emotions will be living in the damp and dingy basement of the mansion that we call the human spirit. People even talk of themselves as down in the dumps, right, when they are in certain moods. At other times, we talk about being on cloud nine or in a spiritual high. To make this journey, a person needs to be conscious that there is a need for growth, and then to have an idea of what their present life is like by observing their emotions and their thoughts, and then learning and using a process of how to move to a better life, a higher level in your house. So the task is to explore the levels of your house. Focus on your human mind as a house of spiritual awareness. When you experience an emotion, take a moment to notice on which level of your house the emotion resides.